6:22 now, 1320 WILS. Twitter going to war against ISIS. About time. They've now said that they have suspended 125,000 accounts because they promote terrorist acts and they're connected somehow to ISIS. Christopher Copeland is the director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice Studies at Tarleton State University. Chris, great to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and this, in terms of Twitter making this announcement, they made this announcement on Friday. They said over 7 months they've done this. Well, what did you think? Was it something was it like about time for them to do that?
I think it was a matter of that they probably had been working on it from the beginning, but my guess is that, well, not really a guess, my educated experience tells me that more than likely they were working with law enforcement communities, both here in the United States and globally, to track down some basic intelligence before some of these accounts were suspended.
Is this something Twitter, you think, would have been pressured into doing?
Well, it's something that Twitter may have been subpoenaed into doing. So pressure is one thing, a court order is another.
And what do you make of the companies like Twitter not taking proactive action over these things like this?
Well, I think it's very difficult. It certainly puts the company in a bad position. You know, the company is there to make money. That's why any of these Silicon Valley companies exist. But at the same time, there is, this terms of service is what they go by. And they have to uphold terms of service not just for, Islamic State users, but they have to withhold terms of service for everybody else.
Right. Even if it involves illegal activity, that still is in the realm of terms?
Yeah, so they expanded it to include acts of violence. They expanded acts of violence in their terms of service to include things that could be considered terroristic threats or the promotion of international terrorism.
Oh, as in that would disqualify an account from being active, you're saying?
Yes, that would disqualify an account. It would be a violation of their terms of service, and that would allow them to shut the account down.
Now, did you say there was a subpoena for Twitter to do this?
So my guess is that there was probably a subpoena along the way, which is why Twitter's just now announcing some of this, because, of course, they can't announce anything during an active court or an active investigation. Yeah, there would be gag orders on those.
Talking to Christopher Copeland, the director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice Studies at Tarleton State University. Does this have a huge impact on ISIS and how they're able to, radicalize people out there?
Well, in terms of the level of impact, I think we're not going to know that for probably another year or so as we determine how ISIS and Islamic State users react to this. It certainly will have an impact in terms of how people are radicalized, how people are recruited, and how Islamic State members promote their agenda.
Yeah, I mean, is this something they really rely on, a tool like Twitter, or do they have better avenues than that?
Twitter was the primary one because of its ease of use and its ease to set up accounts.
Do they use Facebook too, or?
Not as much. Facebook's terms of service were there, but it's so much easier to go through Twitter than it was Facebook. Twitter was much more mobile. Twitter was much faster. They were easier targets on Twitter to reach out and touch in terms of radicalization. Twitter was the primary source.
So in Google, in terms of what Google's doing, they have so much data. Are they also under the same umbrella of where they're going to start addressing ISIS using their tools?
I think they already have. In many cases, by making it more difficult, their terms of service are much more rigid than what the terms of service were for Twitter. Any promotion of violence in terms of Google's terms of service was considered a violation of their terms of service.
Now, do you think that is appropriate that all these private sector companies set up these new kind of terms of service?
Well, I think, in terms of appropriateness, I'm kind of caught. On the one hand, I want to be able to say, it's my First Amendment right to say anything that I want to, but we already know that's not true. I can't run into the movie theater and cry fire. That's anything that promotes public panic or fear is illegal already. So I don't really have a problem from a civil rights standpoint of anybody having these level of terms of service. And on top of that, these are private companies. You can always use somebody else.
And other than Twitter, I get, we hear about these secret websites and all these different ways that ISIS has of reaching out to people. How well is that understood? What some of these, let's say, non-mainstream methods? Do we know exactly what they're up to?
Well, we know how they work. What they're up to is a different story. A lot of these peer-to-peer communications, Telegram is one of them, one of the most commonly used ones. Once two people move to Telegram or they move to apps like Kik, then it becomes much more difficult to trace their activities because it is user to user and they can encrypt it.
Oh, so it's not broadcast out, essentially? It's just two people connecting to each other, you're saying?
Yeah, it's just two people, direct connection.
So you're saying this Kik app? I haven't heard of Telegram. I have heard of Kik. They're actually encrypted, just naturally encrypted, or is that something you do to a special?
So you can encrypt it on a peer-to-peer basis. So I can encrypt the transmissions going from my phone to another phone if I know their Kik address. Telegram is encrypted on a per message level. So that makes it even more difficult. Each message is its own signing key.
Yeah.
So that's where Telegram is probably one of the most commonly used ones because the connection is encrypted by the application layer.
Christopher Copeland, director of the Institute for Homeland Security, Cybercrime, and International Criminal Justice. Studies, I should say. Does this? Is this a big blow? Then, are we finally going to, shut down ISIS's access to our young people here?
So I don't know how much of an impact it's going to have yet. Primarily because the impact is still going on. There are several hacking groups around the world that are still in the process of identifying Islamic State accounts and getting them shut down. So, as one pops up, it's sort of like the old gopher game. As one gopher pops up, you got to bash it on the head and get another one. So we don't really know the level of impact it's going to have yet. We probably won't know that for some time. The issue here is that just with technology, if one thing gets shut down, another technology will come along and replace it. So the issue now will be if they're not using Twitter, what are they going to move to, and what can we do to adapt to that technology? That still remains to be seen.
Oh, yeah. Any leading app you think they're going to go to now?
It's hard to say. I've been looking over the last several days since the announcement on Friday to see what mobile apps, what applications could be used that are like Twitter, that are Twitter-like in terms of their reach. And I don't see anything just jumping out at the moment that would fill its role. So I'm hoping the impact will actually be quite large in terms of shutting down radicalization and recruiting.
Yeah, they're not going to go to MySpace, are they?
Oh, God, no.
Is that even around anymore? I'm not even sure.
I believe Time Warner still owns MySpace, but I don't know if they're doing anything with it.
Christopher Copeland, again, Tarleton State University. Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's when we come back in the second half hour of the 1320 WILS Capital City Recap, we'll find out exactly who owns all of our major banks. A new study says that it could basically be the same people that own all of them. And how does that impact us as consumers? We'll find out. Also, how to stay fit. We'll be here from a man who was has spent a lifetime being fit, now in his 60s, bodybuilding champ. He'll be here to give me some advice because I desperately need it. That is next.